The following is a special presentation of the First Horizon Green Sports Zone. This is the Pizza Inn Eddie Spradlen Show.
Welcome back to First Horizon Green Sports Zone, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Pizza Inn Eddie Spradlen Show, where we cover everything on the turf inside a beautiful Burley Stadium with the Greeneville Devils football team. We'll recap last week's Week 1 win over Morristown West here at Burley Stadium and preview this week's big-time matchup on the road with Upperman in Baxter, Tennessee. But first, before we do that, we need to get a quick word in from our sponsors first. So we'll be right back after this break here on First Horizon's Green Sports Zone.
The Pizza Inn Eddie Spradlen Show is brought to you by Gateway Ford Nissan, Tommy's Plumbing, and by Pizza Inn.
Welcome back to First Horizon's Green Sports Zone, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Pizza Inn Eddie Spradlen Show, where we cover everything inside a beautiful Burley Stadium with the Green Devil football team. As always, I'm joined here with Greene Devil head coach Eddie Spradlen. Coach, how's it going this week?
Going good, man.
I bet it is after a Week 1 win.
For sure.
Here at home over a rival in Morristown West. Let's jump right into it. 36-13, the final score. Hot, humid night, but it didn't slow the Greene Devils down any. How good was Friday's win?
It was real good, to start the season off. We talked about it last week. We've had a tough preseason with the teams we've played, but it got us ready to where we needed to be for game one. Much improved Morristown West team, big, physical. They played hard. So it was to come out with a big win. It was good for us. Having run the clock in the fourth quarter, we give up a score there at the end to let the clock stop running. But really proud of our team's effort on Friday.
And I can say it now, 9 straight in the series. I didn't want to throw a number out there last week and jinx you. It was 8, now it's 9. So you win 9 straight in a series that before this winning streak, Morristown West had dominated. How good does it feel to continue that winning streak over a rival?
Yeah, really good. Like you said, most people, on my football team don't really understand what Morristown West, Greeneville football, the rival really means. But you talk to any old head, they want to beat them as bad as they want to beat Elizabethton or anybody else. So anytime you can win 9 in a row against anybody, especially a program like West, it says a lot about where our program's headed.
And the series is now 23-27 all-time versus Morristown West, and you get a hot night on offense. 417 total yards. We'll talk about Kane Ricker and Taryn Clarity in a minute and all the offense they produced, but the offense in total, 417 yards in game one. Obviously, that brings you a lot of confidence, but how nice was it seeing you start out so hot so early?
It was good. We talked about it. How's this offensive line going to do? Young, returning one starter on the offensive line, but man, I talked to Coach Keith yesterday. He called me and he said, we tried to throw a kitchen sink at your offensive line just because I knew they were young, and he was just bragging on how good they picked up stuff and how well they're coached. And I talked about it last week. Coach Bentley does a tremendous job with that offensive line. Coach Crawford helping in there with them. So it's a good young group that I'm excited about, but they're just going to continue to get better as the year goes on.
Thinking to last year and the previous years we've done shows, I believe one of the trending topics was always holding a team to less than 200 yards of offense, and you were able to do that, holding Morristown West only 191 total yards. I know you allowed 2 touchdowns, 1 late in the game and 1 in special teams, so the defense almost pitches a shutout. I believe the first team did pitch a shutout.
Well, no doubt.
How improved was that defense, knowing you have a lot of people that need to be replaced from last year's defense? A lot of questions around that defense too, with the defensive line obviously losing a lot of them also. How impressed were you with how they played in Week 1?
We played really hard up front. We had some the one thing, the big thing you just mentioned, we give up a kickoff return for a touchdown, and we had to sub some guys in, and had a chance to make a tackle. We missed a couple tackles. That's one thing that you got to continue to work on. Special teams, like we talked about, it's after game. You don't get much of that. Everybody wants to do live punt and field goal block, but they don't want to do live kickoff. So it's a lot different, and we did a good job. We got a lot of guys trying to get some, I want as many people to contribute as we can. We got a lot of guys that are not starters on that kickoff team. They can continue to work to get better and make plays on there for us. But And defensively, we jumped off sides 2 different times on 4th down. Both times one of them was out of a timeout, and we talked about what's the football. They're going to try to jaw us off sides, and both times key guys that are defensive leaders for us jump off sides. That stuff can't happen in big games, especially early in the year. But we going to fix that stuff, and there's a lot to learn on both sides of the ball. But I'm really proud. We talked about it last week. We've switched what we're kind of doing up front and get a little more linebackers on the field. We got a lot of linebackers and not as many D linemen maybe. So it just depends on if somebody's going to spread us out, we can play with three front and feel really good. Somebody's going to pound the ground. We got our 4 front stuff that we're going to be able to use. So, but throwing a lot at those guys, and we're real proud at where we're at defensively as well.
Let's talk about some individual stat stuffers. We've got to start with Kane Ricker. First career start at quarterback. It almost couldn't have went any better. The only thing that I think could have been better is that 1 incompletion. 10 for 11, 305 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 5 rushes, 32 rushing yards, and another touchdown. 4 total touchdowns, 337 total yards. What a first start.
Yeah, what a start. Before we get to him, I got to really brag on that offensive staff. Right. I mentioned Coach Bentley before, Coach Crawford, taking a role as offense coordinator this year, and Coach Hansel done a tremendous job. All those, with the passing game, he's a passing game coordinator, and we were able to throw the football around really good. Coach Simpkins does a great job with the, those quarterbacks, and we were able to add Chase Carter to our staff, and he's helping out with that offensive line as well. So what a great offensive staff, did a tremendous job. And we talked about it after the game. I felt like our communication was really good on both sides of the ball, with everything being new and different people calling plays and stuff like that, signaling in. Everything was new, and that coaching staff did a great job. But like you mentioned, Kane Ricker, what a start. I was aggravating him. I said, you better not let your look, because his little brother had a big game in the middle school. So I was aggravating him before the game. I said, you better not let your little brother outdo you. But man, what a great job he did in there. And he's been waiting for this to be the starting quarterback. He come in here, has been the backup for 2 years, and played some receiver and played defense. But we're still going to play him on defense. But he was ready to take on that role as a quarterback.
And his favorite wide receiver to connect with on Friday night was Taryn Clarity. Taryn had another big game, 4 receptions, 148 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. You expect big games out of Taryn at this point. That was the topic last year. It seemed like he always had a highlight play each week. Well, he had a highlight game this week against Morristown West.
Yeah, that first drive, we want to try to establish the running game and doing things that we've been successful out in the past. And we were running the thing. He comes over there after that first drive we scored. He said, those corners can't guard me. Give me the ball. So, first play back that next series, we throw a deep ball to him, and, takes it to the house. He unbelievable football player. When he gets the football in his hands, big things are going to happen.
And then another player that had a good game. You had Braylon Kidwell out there.
Yeah, we talked about him last week. I've expected him to have a big game as well. He's done a good job. He's super athletic, makes plays out there, plays hard on defense. Tough kid. Really proud of how he's playing.
3 receptions, 55 yards, and a touchdown for Braylon Kidwell. And then let's jump to the defensive side of things. A lot of names to mention here, just because you had such a great defensive game. Jack Lister, I'll talk about him first. 5 tackles, 4 assists. We coined him as that player on defense that you expected to be that leader. He kind of broke out as that vocal leader last year, and you expected him to be a leader on the field and have a lot of stats this year and have a lot of big games. And he did in week 1 with 5 total tackles and 4 assists.
Yeah, he's flying around making a lot of plays. You see him in the game. He's playing with a lot of energy. I challenge those guys before the game. Practice Monday through Thursday is not fun here at Greeneville High School. We're going to work your tails off to get better. You got to have fun on Friday night, and I challenge those guys to have fun with each other. And I think they did on Friday. Excited, a lot of energy, juice, and celebrating with each other. But man, he was the leader out there. Big night for him.
He had 5 solo tackles. He also had Ty Ryban tie him with 5 tackles to both lead you in solo tackles. So how good of a night did Ty have?
Ty's, we're playing him all over the field. Told him before, you might line up at linebacker, you might line up at our new Devil position, or you might line up at defensive end. You're going to be on the field. He's getting to the football, making plays. Like you said, 5 tackles. Big game for him. He's a kid that works hard in the weight rooms. Put a lot. He's about 195 pounds. He's really put it on in the off season, and excited where he's at as a football player.
Let's talk about Gustavo Alvarez. First career start for Greeneville. He had a good start on both sides of the ball. I know the offensive line, you don't really have stats to go by on there, but it seemed like everybody on the offensive line had a good night for Greeneville on Friday. But on defense, 4 tackles, an assist, and a tackle for loss. How has Gustavo really shaped into who he is today and fit into this program?
He's first guy here. He's a little quiet, and he's starting to open up, and you can see the relationships he's developed with the players. And man, what a football player he is! He plays hard with a relentless motor all the time. Really played good on the offense and defensive line on Friday.
I saved these 2 for last because these were the 2 that you said before we started this recording had really good nights. Let's start with Caleb Smith. 4 tackles, an assist, a tackle for loss, a sack, and a pass breakup. He was truly everywhere on Friday night.
And I didn't mention how he played a lot of H-back for us and did a tremendous job there. Caleb's a kid that's had a really good preseason. Flies around on defense. Another guy plays with a lot of energy. Like I mentioned, that linebacker core is really the strength of our defense right now, and really excited where they're at.
Last name, it's good to have him back, Cole Smith.
Oh, yeah. What a leader for this football team. A great kid. Got injured last year, missed the majority of the season. Really could have helped us a lot last year. It's great to have him back, and being a leader, playing hard, and just seeing a guy go through what he did last year and being able to be out there and have fun with his teammates is really something special.
Cole's also everywhere, just like Caleb. 4 tackles, 2 assists, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass breakup. Great Week 1 win versus Morristown West here at home. Now you hop on a bus and you make that trip to Upperman. We'll talk about that in the back half. We'll talk about the matchup with the Bees and what to expect this upcoming Friday night here in just a minute on First Horizon's Green Sports Zone.
Come on down to America's Hometown Pizza Buffet here at Pizza Inn in Greeneville. Monday through Thursday, it's all you can dine for just $9 all day, every time. And bring the whole crew. Our party room is ready for birthdays, teams, and get-togethers of any size. Plus, our crew here treats you just like family. Friendly, fast, and always with a smile. So grab a plate and dig in. Pizza Inn, 275 East Andrew Johnson Highway, right here in Greeneville.
Hey folks, it's Gateway Ford in Greeneville. Right now, everyone gets Ford employee pricing. The same deal Ford employees get. No games, no negotiation. Save maximum green in Greeneville today at Gateway Ford on Highway 11 East or at gatewayfordgreeneville.com. Save some green in Greeneville at Gateway Nissan, carrying on a 55-year tradition of doing business your way. Save thousands on Sentra, Rogue, Frontier, and more. Take the short drive to Gateway Nissan in Greeneville or online at gatewaynissangreeneville.com.
For over 30 years, Tommy's Plumbing has proudly served the Tri-Cities with a personal touch because we're not just plumbers, we're family. From simple faucet repairs to full plumbing repiping, we have the experience and expertise to get the job done right. We also specialize in water heater and tankless water heater installations, helping you find the perfect solution for your home. Our technicians stand behind their work and always leave your space clean and spotless. Looking for a plumber who's fast, professional, and reliable? Call Tommy's Plumbing and let our family take care of yours.
Welcome back to First Horizon's Green Sports Zone, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Pizza and Eddie Spradlen Show, where we cover everything inside of Burley Stadium with the Greeneville Greene Devil football team. As always, I'm joined here with Greeneville head coach Eddie Spradlen. So you make the trip to Upperman this week. They make the trip down here last year. Unfortunately, now you have to make the trip over there to Baxter. Long bus ride, ready for a great game on Friday night. What are you expecting?
A big-time matchup between two. It's going to be a physical knockdown, drag-out.
Like it was last year.
Yeah, with no doubt. They're big. We talked about it. It's been a rough, Science Hill, Grace. We start off with Farragut. Now you go against Morristown West, then you go Upperman. It's been a rough road to get here to this point, and don't expect anything else but a battle on Friday night.
I believe we mentioned on the Saturday morning roundup show. Also, if you'd like to sponsor that show, let us know. But
there you go.
This will probably be one of, if not the biggest matchups in the state of Tennessee this week. Last week, you could have mentioned either Brentwood and Baylor or Alcoa Maryville. I think a lot of eyes will be on Greeneville and Upperman this week. No playoff implications. but at the same time, sort of does, because I think for both teams it will be that measuring stick, that litmus test. Last year, you defeat Upperman here on your own home turf, and I think that jumped you in the rankings a lot, jumped you over Upperman, put you up there on that pedestal to where people realized, okay, Greeneville's a legitimate state championship contender. I think it'll be that same way this year too.
Yeah, you know, it's you're gonna see where you're at for sure. You know, we gotta be able to, you know, win that line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and at least control it a little, because they're gonna win some, we're gonna lose some. So it'll be a battle up front. They're big on the offense and defensive line. You know, they're big physical. They want to run the football, just control the clock. The same stuff they've done the past 2 times we've played them. You know, in the playoff is really similar. Obviously, I'm glad to see the quarterback's gone to his big hotel running the football, which has been a big challenge the 2 times we've played them. Not as much quarterback run probably, but they got 2 big running backs that are going to run the ball and just getting behind that big offensive line and just pounding it right at you. So it presents a big-time challenge.
Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball also. What are they going to do to try to slow you down on defense?
You know, they're big, they run around, they're going to pressure you up front with them linebackers. So you got to make sure you're on your stuff. You know, I felt like, you know, our offensive lines continue to get better. This is going to be the biggest challenge they've seen all year. So it's going to take our best effort, without a doubt.
And then making that long bus ride also, do you think that will have any effect? I know in the break we talked about how early you were leaving, going through a walk-through, stopping to get something to eat. Do you feel like that may have any impact on you, or do you kind of embrace that long road trip being the underdogs? Because we've talked about it only a few times before. There's only a few times where Greeneville have ever been labeled the underdogs since we've been doing this in 4 seasons now. And you can maybe say this is a game where you're an underdog going on the road to Upperman.
Yeah, you know, 2 evenly matched teams, so it could go either way, and, you know, without a doubt. And, you know, we got to go on a long bus drive. And, you know, when we first started this, everybody's like, are you going to go down there and stay the night? You know, last year Upperman comes up here, stays the night in a hotel and all that. I remember in 2009 when we went to the first state championship, you know, at that time George Quarles was the head coach at Maryville and all the stuff that they've done. And I remember, I'll never forget, Coach Ballard was talking to Coach Quarles, and, you know, he said, if all possible, because of game time, sleep in your own bed. So, you know, that stuck with me forever on away games, you know, long away games we've took. You know, we've played a lot of different Kentucky teams, you know, North Carolina team, different things. And, you know, we've always left that morning. Every state championship we've played in, we left that morning. So, you know, we want to keep it as normal as we can. We're going to leave a little earlier than we can, do a walkthrough at a high school, and then we're going to get us a good meal at Cracker Barrel. Then we'll make the trip, about 40-minute drive to Upperman, and get ready to play football, and just like we do every Friday night.
Did Coach Crawford recommend Cracker Barrel?
Yeah, he'll be right up there. He'll be on top of things since we're going there. You know, anytime you know, shout out to Cracker Barrel for real. You go anytime we go to eat there for a pregame meal, it's on the table. It's really good meal. You're not having to wait. They've got a section marked off for you, so it's always good. So we continue to stick with them.
3 keys to the game this week. You got a big-time matchup with Upperman on the road, a big-time test throughout the entire state of Tennessee in Class 4A. What are your 3 keys to the game this week with Upperman?
I guess the first key is, can you handle the travel and the long day? Can you handle that, or is that going to affect us? You know, that's going to be a big key to how we perform. But 2 is the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. You know, it's going to be a battle. Like I said, we're going to win some, they're going to win some, but at the end of the day, we got to control that and be able to run the football, and we got to stop what they're doing, run the ball. And probably the biggest key of the football game is, can we get off the field on 3rd down? They're going to try to control the clock on offense. I think against Webb it was like 3-to-1 clock ratio. I don't know exact times but I know Coach Quarles was talking about how, you know, they had it 3 times more than Webb did. You know, it was a 20-21 game. Webb went for it at the end there with 2 points they scored and had a bad snap. So you got to be able to steal a extra drive somehow, get a turnover. You can't let them control the clock in that big-time game.
Yeah, I failed to mention that at the beginning. Big-time win for Upperman in week 1 that opened a lot of people's eyes. But, hey, it's time for the question of the week.
You should have given me. You're gonna have to start giving me heads up before he asks him. So
I like surprising
get it running in my mind there.
Question of the week: who's the GOAT, MJ or LeBron?
No question. We have this all the time with my staff, especially them young. Jordan, baby, Jordan. There ain't no doubt, Jordan.
I like it. What is that debate in the locker room in the
I ain't gonna mention
office?
any names, but Coach Harris, he thinks LeBron's the GOAT. But me and my man Coach G, I think we're going with Jordan.
What do the players think?
Young players,
I feel like they lean toward LeBron.
Yeah, they barely know who Jordan is. And I always argue, if you just watch how hard dang Michael Jordan practiced, how hard he played, it's unreal. And nothing against LeBron, but I don't know that he practices with that mentality. And that's why I like Jordan so much. Just the thing, man, you watch some of that stuff, he's getting on players during practice. He's going all out every practice. He plays like that in the game. He's going to play if he's sick or whatever. And just old school stuff that makes me think he's the GOAT for sure.
I agree. Michael Jordan is my guy. I'm interested to see the answers I get this week. It might be a sweep with Michael Jordan.
Harrison gave you a shout out on here, boy.
Just because a lot of the coaches have watched Michael Jordan, and if you ask the kids, I think it would be a landslide with LeBron James.
Hey, and LeBron, he's a heck of an
athlete.
If he ain't the GOAT, he's right there as the next one. But my hat's off to Jordan right now.
I agree. Hey, if you can't make it to the game, I know it's a far drive on Friday night. We'll have you covered on 99.5 FM, 1340 AM WGRV. Ron Metcalf, Pat Crum, and Richard Tipton will be on the call. The game time is at 7 o'clock this week, not 7:30. And you are in Central Time, so it'll be 8 o'clock over here. So 8 o'clock game time, 7:30 will be the beginning of the pregame show. So remember that the game will be in Central Time. So the game will be an hour behind, hour early for you all, hour behind for us. So if you can't make it to the game, we'll have you covered. We'll have somebody down there covering the event also. We'll have a morning after article and a post-game interview with Coach Spradlen. But until next time, unless you've got anything else to add, that's all I've got.
Go Devils.
Hey, I didn't mention it on the first of the video. I want to see if he makes it to the end right here. Disclaimer, we don't have any mics on us this week. My mic's broke. So if Devin Dye makes it all the way to the end, which will prove
Devin,
if he is a true loyal fan, you see we've got the old school condenser mic in front of us. So hopefully next week we'll be mic'd up with new mics now. We won't have to hold it anymore. Yeah. But, Coach, best of luck on Friday night.
We'll
get a big-time win for the Devils. Thank you all for watching this week's edition of the Pete and Eddie Spradlen Show. Look forward to seeing you next time here on First Horizons Green Sports Zone.